Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to present you also now directly to the director of Perez Legal Group SL, Raquel Perez Vasquez.
Good morning.
Who's going to be the speaker today. Now, Raquel approached our office a couple of months ago asking if we would collaborate in organizing a seminar about inheritance taxes. And we thought that was a very good idea, as it is a long time since we have had taken this subject up on our talks that we've been organizing previously. And also we always have many questions about inheritance taxes at the Department for Foreign Residents at the Mijas Town Hall. So we said yes, I think that's a very good idea. And we were speaking to Raquel and also seeing what she has published, this little guide booklet, which is fantastic, what she's done, and also looking into the website that he has made, which gives very, very useful information. We said very professionally, we'll organize this down here, and as we can see, we are very happy to see so many of you here. And now, just before I give the word to Raquel, I'd like to say that we also outside here has got a list, if you'd like to put your email address down, to receive information about the activities that we organize from the Foreign Department. Is just out here in the desk. So now I'll give the word to Raquel. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Inheritance Procedure Seminar. Thank you, Annette, for the presentation. That was very nice of you. The idea of this presentation is to give you some guidance about the inheritance procedure. Do believe me, I receive many inquiries per month about this subject. I do believe there are a lot of lack of information about it, and people that don't find it in anywhere. I'm also very pleased to see so many people sitting down here today who are interested in the theme. And I'm going to explain now a little bit how this seminar is going to take place. The seminar will take more or less 1 hour. And after my presentation, which will be followed with a PowerPoint presentation, I will introduce a colleague of mine who is a British solicitor that will give you some ideas of how to work in conjunction with Spain and any European community member, because it's very similar structure. And after that, we will pass on to the questions and answers. That will be more or less half an hour. And then we will be giving a coffee break, so everyone can have a chat, we can do a little bit of networking, and we can just enjoy. So with no any further delays, I'm going to start the presentation. Right, myself, as I said already, my name is Raquel Perez. I've been 16 years providing legal advice and guidance to foreigners in Costa del Sol, independently being resident or non-residents. I believe you have been given this Spanish legal property information booklet at the entrance of the seminar. If you don't have it, please collect it at the exit, because it's quite useful information. With this book, I don't pretend to become a legal expert, and that's why I'm sure you got your lawyer, or you will have your lawyer, but it's a basic information that at least will direct you and will make yourself to ask some questions about what to do with your own assets in Spain. And also we will be giving this leaflet about the inheritance procedure. We will ask you just, if you, in case you want to, just to put an email address down for our newsletter, because we've got our blog and our website, and also we send newsletter with the latest news about the Spanish inheritance law and general law in Spain. Right, let's start the PowerPoint. Let's talk about first about the Spanish world. If you don't have a Spanish will, the inheritance process can take up to 4 years. And why is that? Foreigners have free disposition, right? Any foreigner can make a Spanish will, and this means that he can leave his Spanish assets to whomever he chooses. In Spain, the Spanish Registrar of Wills accept this rule. And when the time arrives, the will be executed and the inheritors will take possession of the property. The Spanish authorities, in practice, they don't really ask whether the testator is an official resident or non-resident in Spain. They take the Spanish will as valid. So, but, however, they will enforce that the Spanish inheritance tax must be paid. And that will depend if the inheritors are resident or non-residents. Now, without a Spanish will, what will happen if you die and you don't have a Spanish will? Well, if a foreigner dies in Spain without a Spanish will, the estate will be distributed according to the Spanish law of succession. Let's suppose that a husband and a wife owns a property in Spain, 50% each, and they've got 3 children. The surviving spouse, he already or she already owns 50% of the estate, because that, as it remains in the title deed. And the surviving spouse, will have the right to stay in the property until she or he dies. So actually, what we call the usufruct, the right to stay. And also, he will have the right on the children's shares. So 50% that we're talking about, that surviving spouse is taking over, that actually is the 50% that constitute the estate. This estate will be distributed in 3 equal parts among the 3 children. So each child have 1/3 title of the 50%. That means that there will be 4 people in the title deed. It will be the surviving spouse and the 3 children. All of them, the 4 of them, must be agreed to rent or sell the property. So, if you die and you don't have a will, your inheritors, what's the problem? That they will be incurred in expensive legal procedure. It's also time-consuming, and also I would say that if you really care about your inheritors and you've got definite ideas how to distribute your assets, you must make a Spanish will. It's an easy process, it's not complicated, it's not expensive to make a Spanish will, and you will feel more secure. Costs and fees associated with making a Spanish will. Right, that will vary. It is more or less between an amount between 180 euros up to 250 euros. That will be the legal fees. Separate to that, you have to pay notary fees, which will be approximate 50 euros. Your lawyer will be the one preparing your Spanish will. It's a double-barrel document in your own language and in Spanish, can be English, Spanish, or other language, and you will be taken and accompanied by your Spanish lawyer to the notary public to sign in front of the notary public this will. You will have to take your passport, the original passport. Okay? Now, advantages of signing a Spanish will. There are 4 points to take into consideration. The first one I already mentioned. If you don't have a Spanish will, then your survivors will have and will be incurred in an expensive legal process, and also it's very time consuming. As I said before at the beginning of this page, a legal process in the court can take up to 4 years. What happened that during all this time, your assets cannot be sold or cannot be rented, because you have to change the title and the ownership of the property into the inheritor's name. Point number 2, if you don't have a Spanish will, you will have to follow the law of compulsory heirs. What is the law of the compulsory heirs? The inheritance law that every single Spanish, not resident, I'm talking about Spanish nationals, must to follow, in which 2/3 of their estate must be left to the children. So actually, the second advantage will be that you have free disposition. You don't have to follow that law of compulsory heirs. The point number 3 is that having a Spanish will, it will give you the advantage to plan ahead. What do you mean planning ahead? Plan ahead means that if you are thinking of retiring in Spain and living in Spain, you will have the possibility to plan how you're going to distribute your assets. And if your country of origin allows you to become resident in Spain, you can, because most of the tax can be avoided. Also, I have to say that the Spanish government protects very much the family. So if you got a Spanish will, leaving your assets to your surviving spouse and your children, you have certain reductions and exceptions that will be applied. For a surviving spouse, it's 16,000 euros. Okay, it's not a lot, but something is something. And 11,000 euros for your children. Now, the point number 4, and in my opinion is one of the most important, is that if you are an official resident in Spain and your legitimate inheritors become resident, again, that will depend on the situation of your inheritors, they can avoid up to 95% of the inheritance tax. And it means a lot. This avoidance, this reduction, this exception, is not applicable for non-residents. Only for residents, and we're talking about the deceased person must be resident and also the inheritors. Right. Does my English will cover my Spanish assets? Right. Let's suppose, for example, give you an example, a British will. You got a British will, but you don't have a Spanish will, or any other will of the European Union community. What happened? Yes, you could use it, but the will must be probated. And that means that a certain number of steps must be followed. It's a lot of documentation. It's also an expensive process, because every single document must be apostilled and must be legalized for Spanish purposes. Also, every single document needs to be translated by a legal translator in Spain. So it's expensive. It's an expensive procedure. So yes, it can be, but as I said, it's much simpler process if you already have signed a Spanish will. If that is the case, and then obviously you don't have any other choice, and coming back to the example that you got an English will, your lawyer in England will have to do what we call a letter of intention, in which he has to declare and confirms on your behalf that even despite the fact that you have been living in Spain for a certain number of years, or you have been traveling coming and forwards, or you got a Spanish property here, your intention is to get back to your country of origin. So you have actually to review your legal domicile. You have to be careful with that. Right, let's put to the next point. Let's talk about now inheritance tax laws. Can you avoid paying a Spanish inheritance tax? Right. Obviously, every single situation and every person will have to be studied. And you believe me, in my 16 years of experience, I never had an inheritance procedure the same. Always is completely different, one case to the other. It can be avoided. My advice is that will depend very much, and my advice will be subject to the value of the estate. There are 3 different ways that you can avoid, and I said plan ahead about your inheritance tax planning. You can form a Spanish company, for example, in which all the family members constitute the inheritors of the state. Now, what happens that if one of them dies, one of the members of the Spanish company dies, then the boarding of directors need to be reorganized without leaving any tax to pay. A second option can be to incorporate an offshore company. So it can be a non-resident Spanish company or a company which is offshore